Okay, I have 6 o'clock. I'll call the meeting of the Olive Branch Planning Commission to order. If we'll have a roll call, please.
Donnie Singh,
Here.
Dion Jones, Steve Stratton,
Here.
Pat Dorr,
Here.
Janice Lewis,
Here.
Diane Singer,
Here.
Kimberly Remack.
Here.
Okay, you've received in your packets the minutes of the June 11th, 2024 meeting. Are there any corrections or additions needed to the minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Singer to approve the minutes of June 11th, 2024. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Remack. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the minutes have been approved. We have two items on the consent agenda tonight. We have number 1 and number 2, and what I'll do is I'll read both of them together. These are items that are considered routine and non-controversial in nature that don't warrant a full staff presentation and board discussion. But after I read the two items, if anyone wishes to have a full staff presentation, we will do so. And also we can vote for the two, just to have one vote approving both of them. So the first one is an application for a second revision of Kraft Goodman Commercial Subdivision, Phase 3, Lots 1A and 1B, submitted by Mike Davis, the Reeves firm, on behalf of property owners Onyx OB Hotel LLC, to abandon and relocate a sanitary sewer easement. The subject property is zoned C4 Planned Commercial District, located on the north side of Camp Creek Boulevard, west of Pigeon Roost Road, and east of Kraft Goodman Road, known as 8286 Camp Creek Boulevard. The second consent item is an application for the third revision of Trek subdivision, submitted by LPC State Line Road OB LLC and 10295 State Line Road Owner LLC property owners. The request is to replat lots 3A and 3B, being a total of 15 acres. The subject lots are zone M2 Heavy Industrial District and are located on the south side of State Line Road East, just over 0.5 miles west of Hacks Crossroads and just under 0.5 miles east of Alexander Road, known as 10291 and 10295 State Line Road East. So these are the two consent agenda items. Does anyone wish to have a full staff presentation? If not, then I will ask for a vote to approve the two consent agenda items.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Remack to approve the two consent agenda items. Do we have a second?
Second.
No, we have a second by Ms. Lewis. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed, so the consent agenda items have been approved. Okay, under the new business, we have an application for a preliminary plat for Racetracks Hacks Crossroads subdivision, submitted by Mike Davis, the Reeves firm, on behalf of the property owner, Cooper Realty Investments, Inc. The request is to subdivide 43.2 plus or minus acres into 7 commercial lots and private access drives over 4 phases. The subject property is zoned C2 Highway Commercial District, located on the south side of Highway 302 between Old Goodman Road, Branch Road, and Hacks Crossroads. So we'll ask for the presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You can see a depiction of our 43.2 acre subject property on the overhead slide. Give you an idea of where we're located, the roadway system. This is Highway 302 along its north side, and this is Hacks Cross Road running along the east side of the property, so that puts it in the southwest corner. We have the Branch subdivision, residential subdivision for single-family homes, located over here on the west side, and you can see Branch Road running up through the subdivision and bordering the property also along its western side. Branch Road runs into Goodman Road East, and that, of course, connects up to Highway 302. We have the Hardee's fast food store right here. Wendy's is here. Walgreens caddy corner to the subject property, and we have a new Zaxby's restaurant that's under construction right here. Again, caddy corner to the subject property. You can probably see on here that we have a right-of-way. If you can see these red lines, this is the right-of-way of Old Goodman Road that runs through the subject property east to west along its northern side. And that road was in use prior to the Highway 302 bypass being constructed that was done about 25 years ago for those of you who were longtime Olive Branch residents. And you can see these red lines on here. At one point in time, there were single-family homes that were up against the Old Goodman Road right-of-way. As it stands now, that has the old road bed still in there, and it has some electrical overhead facilities running through it as well. As far as the zoning of the subject property, as you mentioned, it's zoned for C2 commercial uses, and if you go back to the zoning maps that were done even prior to the bypass and then following when the bypass was completed, all of that property has been zoned C2 general commercial for at least 20 years. We looked at a map as early as the early 2000s, and it's all shown on there as C2. So one thing that I want to emphasize tonight is what we have an application for before us tonight is for a commercial subdivision of this 43 acres. There's really not a zoning issue that's on our agenda tonight. Now, just to go back through a couple years ago, some of you may recall that our Board of Aldermen back in November of 2022 adopted regulations that made convenience stores with fuel pumps conditional uses in the C2 zoning district. And so the meeting to determine whether the racetrack convenience store with fuel pumps will be permitted as a conditional use is actually on Thursday, and that's the public hearing on the matter. But as far as what the Planning Commission is doing tonight, we're reviewing it basically just for the subdivision of the property. You have on your overhead slide, you can see approximate location of what Lot 4 is, and that's where the proposed racetrack convenience store would go, and that's about 650, 660 feet away from the nearest backyard of any resident in the Branch subdivision. But again, that public hearing to discuss the racetrack convenience store is going to be this Thursday at 6 p.m. Our hearing tonight, again, is more or less dealing with the subdivision of property. Now, I do have on your overhead slide a picture of what racetrack's going to look like. This is a rendered site plan, and this shows you a 6,000 square foot convenience store here, and it's called a travel center. To a certain extent, we have fueling for passenger vehicles that's proposed along the north side of the store, this being Highway 302 and this being Hacks Cross Road. And then we do have a truck fueling, 4 truck fueling stations on the south side of the road. Now, there's been a lot of discussion that this is a truck stop. I want to be very, very clear in stating it's not a truck stop. This is for truck fueling, but it has no place for trucks to stop. So the circulation pattern for a truck would be to come in at the main entrance here on Hacks Cross, circulate around this way, fuel up. You could, in theory, after fueling up, pull up here in front to leave the fueling spot open for the next truck, or you could go into the store, use the restroom facilities, buy something, but you're again back out onto Hacks Cross. So this is not a truck stop. It doesn't meet the definition of a truck stop in our zoning code, and that whole matter will be discussed again on Thursday. So again, reiterating, the subdivision of property, which what you all are looking at tonight has to do with are we creating buildable lots, and how are we providing infrastructure, water, sewer, electrical utilities, or road access in terms of infrastructure to serve this broader development on the 43 acres. One way that I kind of would look at this, and it might help you with this, is that if you could imagine what you're going to look at tonight, rather than this being a racetrack proposed at the corner, if it was a Cracker Barrel And if it was a Cracker Barrel, everything else that you'll see tonight would be exactly the same as you're going to see. You know, the difference would be there'd be no public hearing on Thursday to talk about whether or not there should be a Cracker Barrel because it's a use that's already permitted in C2. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense and we can move forward on this. This shows you a depiction of the lots. I would note you can see the numbering of the lots is actually 2 through 8, but there's only 7 lots there. And in the original application, what's shown as these driveways was depicted as a lot. So it is actually a proposed 7-lot commercial subdivision. Really key to the subdivision is the phasing plan that's being proposed. And this shows you the phasing line for the proposed first phase of the development. And that's everything that is to the east of that white dashed line. And that would include a 5.5 acre lot that's currently being proposed for racetrack, and it would also include lots 2 and 3 that are both 1.7 and 1.3 acres in size, as well as this driveway system that goes on to Hacks Cross. Phase 2 of the project would be to complete this driveway all the way over to Branch Road, and again, we've got the property frontage all the way over on Branch Road, and that between this driveway and these, it's about 3.4 acres total in size of the driveways. Phase 3 would be to plat 3 additional 2.6 acre lots, labeled here as 5, 6, and 7, along Highway 302 and between that and the new driveway. And then the final phase 4 would be to plat the larger lot 8 on the south side of the driveway, which would be 23.5 acres in size. As far as some of the main aspects of what we're looking at, again, has to deal with the provision of utilities here. And this shows you a couple of pictures. This is taken right here in front of the Branch subdivision, and you can see looking to the east, and you can see the Branch sign over here on the right. So I was standing right here looking out this way, and you can see that old Goodman Road right-of-way that I mentioned earlier. And you can see there's the old road bed, currently not in use. It doesn't connect over here when you get to Highway 302 bypass, and you can see the overhead utility lines. So this proposal in the subdivision would basically, upon building this new access road in phase 2, would reroute those overhead utility lines along the south side of that drive, and then it would cut back up through lot line that's shared by lots 5 and 6 back up to Old Goodman Road and pick it up where these lines do go overhead across Goodman Road. But again, that's a major part of the project, is to deal with the relocation of those overhead utility lines. Now also, I wanted to point out where this driveway is proposed to connect in. That picture was taken looking northbound here on Branch Road, and you can see this area over here to the right is about where that driveway would come in. So now I'm facing northbound from where this arrow is, and back in the background you can see, maybe on this second photo, where the new convenience store is under construction back in the background of this picture. This shows you, it wouldn't just be the electrical utilities that would need to be relocated. This would also involve the relocation of utility lines as well. You can see on this utility map, we've got a 12-inch water main in the blue line along Hacks Cross Road, and that kind of cuts over across through the middle of the property on that old Goodman Road right-of-way, and it drops down to a 10-inch line, and then later down to a 6-inch line over here on Branch Road. You have an 8-inch gravity sewer line again through this on the green line down Old Goodman Road, and then you can see the gold or yellow line that's around the perimeter of the property, and also on the Old Goodman Road right-of-way is a gas line. So basically, again, all of these lines as part of this plan would need to be relocated out of that old right-of-way that would be abandoned and placed along the new driveway. Now there is one item to mention on off-site utilities. There is a possible location that's about a half mile to the west of our subject property along Old Goodman Road, that when the project for the Vanderburg Flats was evaluated a few months ago, there was a determination made that there may be a segment of line that needed to be upgraded in terms of sewer capacity. Now, in terms of this project, that's something that probably wouldn't need to be done until a later phase of the project, maybe at the point where you had the 3 lots that were along Highway 302. So basically, what happens in our process is that if this preliminary plat were approved tonight and it in turn was approved by the Board of Aldermen next week, that the next step in the process would be that the applicants could submit plans for these infrastructure, this relocation and the new driveway and those types of provisions, civil plans to our city engineer, and the city engineer could in fact approve those plans and some construction could start. Now, when I say construction, I do not mean vertical construction. I mean the horizontal construction of the roads and infrastructure could be done. In order for any type of vertical construction to occur, there would need to be final plat phases that would again come back through the Planning Commission and back to the Board of Aldermen again. And the final plat is where you're actually showing the final lot depiction, and upon approving that again, the property is eligible for site plan approval and a building permit. So also wanted to cover the main issue here, which I think is traffic, and there was a traffic study that was submitted with this application and the application for the conditional use permit. And it did take a look at not only the impacts of the racetrack convenience store, but it also looked at what the impacts that would be associated with the completion and the traffic that would be generated by this new convenience store that's currently nearing completion of construction over here on the west side of the intersection of Old Goodman Road and Highway 302. Now, one thing that this traffic study did not do is it did not address the full 43 acres of development. Another thing that it did not do was it did not assume any type of pass-by trips. And when you have the types of projects like a convenience store, normally these aren't necessarily new trips that are generated on the roadway system, but they're trips that are already on the roadway system that decide to stop for fuel. So actually that would lower the number of trips that they projected. So they did rather conservative on their projections. They did look at and identify some what they viewed to be existing problems at this intersection of Old Goodman Road and Pecan View Drive with Highway 302, and namely those problems that are currently happening are due to trips that are trying to cross over the road in the direction of the red arrows, either going to the northeast or back to the southwest, or trips that are coming out of either of those approaches and trying to make a left-hand turn onto Highway 302, which makes sense. Our city engineer has reviewed that traffic study. He's not 100% sure that he agreed with their findings. And so when we get to the conditions of approval, we'll talk about the need to update that traffic study, including updating a review and of what's called a signal warrant analysis to determine whether or not or when that signalization would be needed. So again, this shows you the lot proposed lot layout as well as the phasing line. And I wanted to talk about some of the recommended conditions of approval related to the provision of traffic infrastructure. And one thing that's really key to this site is that we have no access that's permitted along Highway 302. That's under DOT jurisdiction, and my understanding is that Racetrack did indeed try to get MDOT to agree to allow them to have a curb cut right here along where Old Goodman Road was, and they were denied. So there's no chance that there'll be any type of curb cuts along there. So that's why this private access drive is being proposed, because you can see that that's how, the property currently has frontage over here on Branch Road and Goodman Road, but that's how these various lots would be served, 5, 6, and 7, as well as Lot 8. And that private drive is about 1,600 feet in distance, which is more than a quarter mile. Another general provision that we have here is that the site would need to be walkable, so we have sidewalks required, curb gutter sidewalks that would be required through this whole internal driveway system, and also along Hacks Cross Road, along Branch Road, and this small segment of Old Goodman Road. So again, everything along the perimeter of this property and with the internal driveway system would be served with sidewalks for pedestrian safety as a general provision of the subdivision. We have some conditions that are related to phase one, again, that being your lots 2, 3, and 4, as well as this part of the driveway system. So one of the conditions of approval has that you would have a continuous right-hand turn lane that would be constructed all along the east side of that or west side of Hacks Cross Road that would run down this way. You would have a limitation of 3 access points along Hacks Cross. This first access point, you may have seen the earlier shot of the racetrack. It showed a driveway coming in here. The condition would state that that driveway that's nearest to the intersection would be for right-in traffic only. You would not be able to go right out of that, or you wouldn't be able to make a left out, and that's based upon, you know, it being too close to this intersection of Highway 302 and Hacks. So you would have 2 other access points shown on the driveway. The driveways, you would not have additional access allowed for lots 2 or 3. And so for both of these points where the driveway intersects Hacks Cross Road, those would be 3-way. You'd have 1 lane going in, and then you would have 2 lanes going out, so you'd be able to make dedicated lanes for both a left-hand turn movement going back up to Highway 302 or a right-hand turn movement, and the same with this access point as well. Now, this is really the key, I think, to the project, and this deals with the phase 2 conditions. And essentially, when this driveway is completed, that would be at the point where a traffic signal would be required to be installed by the developer at this intersection of Highway 302 and Branch Road. And they would also be required to extend this turn lane that you can see here, the westbound turn lane approach, I should say, back here to allow for more stacking. So these would be things that would be required. An updated traffic study would be required at that time, and an updated signal warrant analysis would also be required by the developer at that time. But again, that would be something that would be, again, required in order to make that driveway connection. So at the point that driveway connection was made, this intersection would be signalized. There's also a recommended condition of approval. There's a left-hand turn lane already in place here along Old Goodman Road, and there's another requirement to add another left-hand turn lane here. So any traffic that was coming in would be able to stack and turn in the event that there was anybody coming out of this branch subdivision. And then finally, on the recommended conditions of approval, one of those is expanded tonight, and this is a little bit different than what was originally shown on your planning report. We just wanted to clarify that that phase 2 updated traffic study would need to assess that full 43 acres of development, whatever may be built at that time or whatever may be anticipated to be built at that time on any of these lots, and also evaluate the potential need to add a signal over here on Hacks Cross, either at that entrance or that entrance. And the reason that that came to light was based upon the board had approved a subdivision for this particular property back in 2006, and at that time the board had required signalization there, which we already talked about, as well as signalization over here. So again, I think at the point that the project went a little bit further and there was more anticipation of what the traffic generation would be, that would need to be assessed. You know, we have another development over here called Oak Park Town Center, and they're going to be connecting their main drive somewhere down here, so that may end up potentially being something that could be a shared expense if a traffic signal was warranted back at that time, and that would be down at the southernmost entrance. So we do have a recommended motion to approve or recommend to the Board of Aldermen approve the preliminary plat for the racetrack Hacks Cross subdivision, subject to these conditions. The ones that I have highlighted in blue are the ones that I just talked about with respect to the traffic improvements that I listed. And then under number 8, what's underlined there, this was not in your original report, but that's what's been added since you got the report, and that would be an updated traffic study to assess impacts of anticipated full development of the 43.2 acres, including potential need for signalization at the Hacks Cross Road entrance. That concludes the staff presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, any questions of staff? No questions. Is there someone here to represent the application?
Hi, I'm Jim Shumpert with the Reeves Firm, 6800 Poplar Avenue in Memphis. Jason, that was a great presentation, very thorough. I don't have anything to add, but I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Shumpert, you get off light. I don't think there are any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I will open this for public discussion. We're not required to have a public hearing for preliminary plats, but we'll do so as long as our discussion is limited strictly to the preliminary plat itself and not the convenience store with gas pumps. All of that will be handled Thursday night at this place at 6 o'clock with the Board of Adjustments. So that's when the hearing will be as far as the racetrack, convenience store, and gas pumps. But if anyone wishes to come forward and give your opinion as to the preliminary plat in favor or against, once again, limit your discussion to 3 minutes or less, and you only have one trip to the podium, no more than one trip to the podium. So if anyone wishes to come forward, you can do so now. Yes, sir, you can come forward, please.
How you doing?
Just fine.
My name is Ray Langston, and I live at 10620 Loblolly. And you've seen them pictures. I can come out my back door. I'm 3 houses down from the ranch. Back in my younger days, I could throw a baseball to that driveway down there, that road. I'm all for being, for the city getting new business and stuff like that. If you had that service station, that's fine. Put a buffer of the trees, take that road out and get them somewhere else to come through there. We got enough traffic coming down our road. See, I got a service station they're building across the street from me. You can see it from my backyard. I mean, do they have other places to build these things? We got enough service stations. Not going to run out of gas. And the first thing's going to do, you say it's not a truck stop, but you got 4 truck places to fill up. There's wind up going to be a truck stop. You can't promise that it won't. Now I'm looking at crime too. Because I was a truck driver at one time. I know what goes on in truck stops. So, my little 2 cents is not going to buy me anything. I mean, y'all going to do what you're going to do anyway. But if you lived there, you wouldn't want that traffic coming through there like that. So I don't know where none of y'all live. I mean, it's bad enough as it is right now. So that's just my opinion. So I said my say, and we'll let y'all vote.
Thanks for your comments. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Brittany Fearing, and my husband and I, sorry, I'm a little nervous. My husband and I are homeowners at 6680 Branch Road. And we bought our home 2 years ago when I was 9 months pregnant with our son. And I say this only as background to my comments regarding the upcoming plats. We bought our home because this community has signs like caution deaf child area, caution autistic child area. And I'm from Los Angeles, California. I'm very familiar with growing up next to truck stops or gas stations or convenience stores. They were right in my backyard growing up, and it is actually the reason we moved to Mississippi. My concern with the proposed changes to our neighborhood include the traffic coming in and out, these left-hand turn lanes, and the road where Old Goodman Road currently is. That's very concerning to me as a mother of a 2.5-year-old, because this is a neighborhood where children actually play in the streets, and we consider that a blessing to see kids playing in the streets. And just to have a gas station, they're unique, they're different than a Cracker Barrel, they're different than any other commercial area. That pretty much sums up my concern, is the danger, the traffic that it would bring to our neighborhood, unique to a gas station. Thank you.
Anyone else? And once again, limit your discussion to the plat. And once again, the gas station will be talked about Thursday.
I'll be brief. My name is Brandy Shirley. I live at 10340 Curtis Drive in the Magnolia subdivision. Been there for 24 years. Again, moved from Phoenix, Arizona to a small town, and I have enjoyed the small town life and the feel and the atmosphere. I love the community. I understand that this community is going to grow. I do get that. I also have concerns about the traffic that you're planning, the roads that you're planning to build behind this division that you're talking about, the 43 acres. Obviously, you're considering other commercial properties are going to go in there, so you're needing that access road behind it to get to Old Goodman Road, to get to Highway 302. Is that correct? That's why that's being put in there? Do I understand that correctly? Okay. Wanted to make sure. You're also putting in an apartment complex on Old Goodman. That's going to increase the traffic. The wear and tear on the roads, those roads need to be improved. If they're going to have that kind of traffic on them, they need to be improved substantially. And I disagree with the comment that this gentleman made about there's not going to be any new additional traffic going to the new filling station on Goodman and Old Goodman. There will be additional traffic coming there. People will leave their home to run and get the gallon of milk or the bag of diapers or whatever instead of going to the grocery store or to any other store. There will be additional traffic at that corner. I am concerned now about the amount of accidents that happen, and I'm afraid that you're going to have more accidents on Hacks Cross with people trying to make a left out of there, out of the new facility, crossing and going north. So my concern is the structures that you're putting in and the safety of the cars that are currently on the road, and they're going to increase substantially. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to come forward?
Hi there, I'm Ruth Wilburn. I'm at 10368 Goodman Road. I was here a few months ago arguing against the addition of the 410 apartments right in the same area. And one of the reasons was the traffic on Branch Road and at this intersection at 302 and Old Goodman Road. And I don't know if any of y'all actually go down those roads or go down Hacks Cross Road, but the traffic is already bad. You're fixing to put a truck stop, which y'all have agreed that it's a truck stop, at Priority Way, so that's going to increase traffic. And then to put the two access roads off of Hacks Cross Road, you are really asking for some problems there, because in the morning, that left turn lane to go from Hacks Cross Road onto 302 going west is backed up to where that's going to be. And I think that I get the idea that, yes, we want to grow, but I think we're growing in the wrong direction. We're not against progress. We would love to have a grocery store. We would love to have other restaurants and other things besides another convenience store slash truck stop. Not a truck stop, but it's going to be a truck stop. It's going to cause a lot of problems there. Yes, it was zoned commercial, but I don't think anybody had any idea that Olive Branch was going to grow like this. And so I think Olive Branch needs to take a breath and maybe rethink some of these zoning ideas they have in place. But I absolutely think that this is going to be a disaster if you put that in there. And the 302 bypass, it was supposed to be a bypass. You keep putting traffic lights on it. It's not a bypass anymore. So the idea was to move traffic through the city. So it's not a bypass. And I can't imagine putting a stoplight at 302 and Old Goodman Road, much less on Hacks Cross Road, there where they are proposing this. So it's just, I don't see how it's going to work. So, and not to mention crime, but I think, do we want to be a West Memphis that looks like nothing but convenience store and truck stops? That's what Olive Branch is. We are known for being a small hometown community. Let's keep it that way.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, then we'll close the public hearing. I'll now address it to the alderman. Any comments or discussion that you wish to have? Not the alderman, commissioners. I'm trying to give you a raise. Do you have any other comments?
Yeah, if I might add once again, this is not a public hearing, and the public hearing on the matter of whether or not there should be a convenience store with fuel pumps, that is Thursday night in the same location, and really pretty much all of the comments that were just made were related to that issue. Again, the reason that this is not a public hearing is you do not really have discretion over many of the items that were just brought up. And that's why it's not a public hearing. Your discretion is very limited on a matter that you're seeing about platting, and it's, can you provide, are these lots, do they meet the minimum size and dimensional requirements of that zoning district? And the answer to that is yes, they do. Are they providing proper infrastructure to serve those lots? Those are really the two items. And they have frontage. Again, they have frontage over here on Branch Road. You could no more deny this property access to Branch Road than you could have denied anybody who built a single family home access to the public road that's in front of them. So that's something that's not really within your discretion. So again, that's the reason why these aren't really public hearing matters. Some of the points that were brought up by the citizens, again, could be discussed on Thursday night, and that would be the board that would appropriately address them. But to go back again, you've got 43 acres of commercial property, and if this were a Cracker Barrel that was proposed on that property, everything that you just read and saw would be exactly the same as you have. But there would be no public hearing on Thursday because that use is permitted outright in commercial zoning. So I think all of those comments, while very much appreciated, may not be something that you can really take into consideration in your deliberations. And I'm not the city attorney, and I don't mean to wear the city attorney hat, but, you know, we do need to be very, very clear about what your role is in this matter and what your degree of discretion is in terms of your decision-making.
Thank you. So our vote is on the plat
Sure.
itself.
Jason, I had a question. I'm sorry, Pat.
Go right ahead.
I had a question for staff as well. Jason, in our ordinances, we do, as the planning commission, have the ability to deny a plat based on how it's going to affect the character of that area or not, correct?
No, sir. Zoning is the zoning.
No, I'm not asking about the zoning. I'm saying if a plat does not keep with the general character of that development in that area, we can deny it based on that.
Well, I don't believe that you could. I believe that that would be a very difficult situation. I don't believe that the city, I mean, again, my experience would be that you really cannot deny a plat based upon something like that that would be more of a zoning matter. I don't like that there's commercial zoning next to my house, therefore they cannot subdivide it. That's just not an acceptable thing to do from the perspective of, you know, property rights issue. So again, this property, you're not here for a zoning hearing, that's already in place. So you're here to evaluate this proposal. Does it meet the standards, you know, required for dimensional standards in that zoning district, or which it does. Like I said, all of those lots meet the size, and you're here to be able to look at traffic management. Now, if you had items that are related to, you know, the traffic and how this should work, like these conditions that are listed up on the board, I think you could certainly, you know, address those. You know, tweaking conditions is different than just saying we're denying something.
Okay, that brings me to my next question. This is probably for the applicant. Applicant and actually Andy in the engineering department. I feel the traffic data that we were supplied with, which impacts our decision-making here. Andy, would you say that that was an incomplete traffic study that didn't provide pertinent pieces of information that could be required to either approve or deny this?
When the traffic study was completed, I think they were looking specifically at the impacts of Lot 4, the implementation of that development. Most of the data that they gave us was good as far as what they were trying to see, because the impacts were limited basically to Hacks Cross. They were not taking into consideration the future phases that would have connections to it. So we did ask for some additions and changes to be looked at with that traffic study and some modifications to be made with it. But the bigger picture was to look and see what the impacts would be once that phase 2, completing that drive, was done, how that was going to actually affect Branch Road, how that was going to affect Old Goodman Road, how that was going to affect that intersection. So I think they're probably need to do modifications to their traffic study to be able to come back and say what would happen once they got beyond phase 1. As far as phase 1 goes, I think that would have to be looked at. I think that they had a good traffic study as far as that part goes, and good information. We did say, if you remember, that once that road is connected, a signal would need to be looked at Hacks Cross, but that's going to be a part of phases beyond phase 1. So that was kind of my interpretation of it.
I saw one of your notes in the memo. It said that accident data should have been included in the traffic study, and they did not provide any accident data. That would go from Old Goodman or Pecan Ridge all the way down to Progress Way. That would include that area, right? If they did provide.
There wasn't any traffic data in the accident data in the traffic study, And I think that it was what I was mainly focusing on is what kind of accident, since they showed in the traffic study that that intersection already had level of service problems with the side roads. I thought it was very critical that they show some accident data there.
So the core of their traffic study focused on the Hacks Cross traffic, which is going to be the direct impact onto phase one, right?
Say that again?
The core of their traffic study focused on Hacks Cross Road, which is basically the direct impact for phase one, right?
They addressed the intersection of Old Goodman Road and 302 in the traffic study, but as far as the data that they were looking at and the impacts, it was mainly focused on phase one and the racetrack development.
And our vote tonight is for the entire 40 whatever acres, correct? Phase one and phase two?
Well, it's a preliminary plat that covers
The
entire project. So
Gotcha.
we've tried to set, again, these conditions are triggered by, you know, the events that would happen. This is not something that's all going to be done in a single phase. Just to give you an example, if we went to the very western area where, by the Starbucks, where Old Goodman Road connects into Highway 302, and some of you weren't on the Planning Commission at the time, but back at that time, that subdivision actually came to us in preliminary platform, a commercial subdivision, and we said at the time, I believe even without the benefit of a traffic study that anticipated the uses on that acreage, and we said that they would need to retime those two traffic signals at Kraft Goodman and then the one down on Old Goodman Road, retime those together and add that lane that was eventually added basically within the past 6 months, right? We made that determination back in 2019, and then that determination was subsequently changed because that was supposed to be done before they started, and then they came back and said, hey, we only have a Pet Suites over here as our first client, so can we hold back on putting that road improvement in until Pet Suites is built? So we did. We allowed that change, and we said, okay, you can get started with Pet Suites, but before you go to your next building permit, you've got to have that road improvement done and those signals retimed, which they subsequently did. But my point is that you had basically 5 years elapsed between the time you made the determination at preliminary to the time that that was eventually done and tweaked through the final plat process. So you're going to have multiple opportunities through here. This is kind of setting forth a development program and some of the basic things that are going to be needed, including we need to update this traffic study as we go. You're going to have more information as you go forward than you have right now. So I think we've got a pretty good plan sketched out in place with these conditions to be able to move forward. And again, I don't know what may happen on Thursday night as far as the gas station. And again, this may turn out to be you know, not to start a rumor, but this could turn out to be Cracker Barrel, you know. And again, in that circumstance, everything here still remains the same as you're seeing tonight. I mean, it kind of boils down to people do have a right to subdivide their property in accordance with the zoning. And so, you know, that's where we are on this particular project.
Okay, so just so I understand it, we're being asked to vote on the entire development with only a portion of the accident data and the traffic data, which is focused on the eastern part of this property.
You're going to have to say that one more time. I want to make sure I understood what you said.
Sure. We're basically being asked to vote on the entire development and its impact, and it's the lots and the way everything is divided out, subdivided, with information that only centers around Hacks Cross. It doesn't take into effect the Old Goodman traffic, even though we are connecting this road. Once we approve this, that connection road is good to go. They can do that.
Well, it is. Well, we
Yep.
put several very strong stipulations as far as traffic goes for them to move forward. When you said you've got to put in a traffic signal at Goodman Road, Old Goodman Road, and 302, that's an MDOT road. We're concerned, just like the public would be, of how this would function, because that road is a game changer when it connects, especially if it develops. that intersection had to be looked at for a signal. We're supporting that would probably be the case if, once it's studied and warranted, if this developed further on down, the impacts for the side roads, which is Pecan View Drive on the north side and Old Goodman on the south. It was brought up that they have a lot of issues with left turn traffic and so forth. So they do, and there is issues. The more that grows, the more that's going to be a serious problem. It was also mentioned that that's a bypass. It is a bypass, and we want to make sure that there's opportunities for the side roads to get there. It does benefit the side roads, the fact that there are not connecting drives to 302 right now. You do have a signal on both ends of it that does allow for there to be opportunities for the side roads to clear out. The more that grows, the more that's not enough time for that to happen, even though those signals on either side of Old Goodman are impacting it. So we've got we've asked for an updated traffic study before they can even move forward. That's going to include things like accident data, and when this is fully developed, how much more traffic that will put in there. So they've got a lot of things to go through before they can move forward with that road connection.
Thank you, Andy. That's all my questions for engineering. This is actually just for my personal knowledge, and it kind of threw me for a loop when Jason, you said this, but what is the difference between this truck stop, gas station, and the official truck stop that we labeled a truck stop at Progress Way?
Well,
that's about maybe half a mile from this site.
Yeah, there's a definition of a truck stop in your zoning code that was added back in 2022. And Asong may want to weigh in on this, but my recollection is the truck stop would have to have truck parking spaces and then also things like shower facilities in the location for truckers to basically stop there for more than just fuel or convenience. So
did we?
So I'll read it out of your code book. Truck stop is an establishment engaged primarily in the fueling, servicing, repair, or parking of tractor, trailer, trucks, or similar heavy commercial vehicles, including the sale of accessories and equipment for such vehicles. A truck stop may also include overnight accommodation, showers, or restaurant facilities primarily for the use of truck crews. So you can see this could be called a travel center, but if I go back again, I want to emphasize, and again, this isn't really the subject for tonight's meeting, but the way that this would work is a truck would be restricted to this use. They would pull in here, and these are your 4 truck fueling positions. So you basically pull in, you fuel up your truck, and I suppose, like I said, you could pull forward at that point to allow a different truck to come in and fuel, but you're basically in the travel lane. These are not for any type of long-term parking. So, it would be just very similar to if you stopped in your passenger vehicle. I think this is more along the lines of Quick Trip that was just recently constructed down on near FedEx Ground. And I think at Quick Trip, they do have maybe 4, 5, 6 parking spaces. So they don't even have those parking spaces here. So there's really no parking spaces for trucks to be there. And then this is a little bit smaller than the Quick Trip was as well at 6,000 square feet. But that's probably more along the lines of this as opposed to a truck stop.
To comment, as Jason did ask me that I do, I remember when we were writing these regulations in 2022, and the city attorney was working on it too. One of the issues we had was Flying J, for example, as a truck stop. And the focus of the definition that you have in here, the second part that adds that says you may have showers and accommodation for trucks, overnight parking, that was kind of written to accommodate the Flying J distinction. But the general definition, because there is a common way folks understand truck stops, But then there is a bit of a narrow definition that you have in this particular ordinance that the city adopted. And the narrow definition was basically that any establishment that is engaged in the fueling of trucks, per this definition, is a truck stop. But that establishment can also have showers. That establishment can also have places for folks to park overnight. The one on Hacks and Progress that Mrs. Singh did ask will have truck parking, for overnight parking. That will be the distinction between that one and this one. This one does not have, as currently drawn, does not have truck parking. But trucks will be able to go in and fuel, as Jason has described.
And again, once again, I would emphasize this is really a Thursday night discussion. You're straying outside of what the bounds are for the Planning Commission's decision-making tonight. That would be something that we were going to go into a little bit more on Thursday night with the Board of Adjustment as to why this is not a truck stop.
Okay, thank you for those. This is just conversation for us, right?
Yes.
Public discussions.
Yes.
Okay.
Public discussions.
I'm having a lot of trouble being asked to vote on an entire development, a 40-something acre development that has significant traffic impacts, irregardless of the use, whether you put a Cracker Barrel there, whether you put whatever there, and having incomplete traffic data that would really give us a better picture of what we're looking at when that connector street, as it's shown today, how that would impact those intersections, those multiple intersections there. Had this been a vote just on the lots fronting Hacks Cross, I believe this traffic study would have been sufficient. We would have had enough data and accident data, traffic data, to vote on that. But the fact that we're being told that this road will connect to the other side, we're asking for the data there, accident data from Pecan View down to Progress, and that's not provided for us. I really don't feel it's appropriate to make a decision on that based off of that. So with that, I wanted to make a motion to deny the application.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Singh to deny the application. Does anyone have a second motion on that? Then if we do not have a second, then the motion fails because of a second. Any other discussion or any other motions that you'll bring?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion based upon the fact that this property is approved for C2 and that we, as an advisory board, are to evaluate that, and that the actual discussion on conditional use matter will be held on Thursday. I make the motion we approve this preliminary plat.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Stratton to approve the preliminary plat, subject to the staff conditions. Do we have a second on that motion?
A second.
All right, we have a second by Ms. Lewis. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
We have one no. So the motion is carried and is approved. And once again, the public hearing on the gas station and gas pumps, convenience store and gas pumps will be Thursday night here at 6 o'clock. So please, if you're interested, be here for that meeting. And thank you for your comments. No, ma'am, it's already been closed. Okay, our second item under new business is an application for a preliminary plat for Watson Estates submitted by Joe Frank Lauderdale Engineering on behalf of property owners Bridgeforth Properties, Inc. The request is to create a 4-lot residential subdivision totaling 19.93 acres. The subject property is zoned AR, agricultural residential, located on the east side of Pleasant Hill Road, south of Bridgeforth Road, and just north of Bean Patch Creek. And we'll have the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I will show you this aerial here, bring you up to the property. Aerial was cut short with my slide, but if you'll notice up in the top right corner here, we've got 6010, just approximate location. That's going to be College Road. We could come south on Pleasant Hill, we come up to Mr. Bridgeforth's office here. We could take a right and come down Bridgeforth Road or continue down Pleasant Hill to Bridgetown. As you start down the hill, you're going to go underneath a power line. That's a TVA easement, and that's the approximate location before you get to the bottom of the hill and you start to look up to the dam at the lake there. So it's going to be on the east side of the road. TVA easement's going to run east to west. That's going to be part of our discussion tonight. This is 19.93 acres, as we talked about. It was entirely wooded up until a couple weeks ago. Mr. Bridgeforth has been doing some underbrushing and cleaning, but the property is located in the southern area annexed into the corporate limits of the city of Olive Branch in 2021. Future extension of utility lines to service this development once the city has extended them into the area following the last annexation plan of services or changes thereto shall be the responsibility of the property owner. This preliminary plat does meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance for the AR district. The preliminary plat is within the bounds of the Planning Commission to review, and it does comply with the regulations of the subdivision or subdivision regulations. Staff recommends approval, and there's some conditions we have primarily on the easement and the driveway, so we'll get to those. Again, as I just discussed, here is the property. It's the 19 acres broke up into 4 lots. We talked about this TVA easement. We'll take you back up here. This is that TVA easement right here. Runs all the way over. We could keep going all the way up behind Dunn Lane and come on across through Olive Branch, but this TVA easement we're talking about is almost dead in the middle of the property. All these lots do, of course, meet the minimum lot requirements, as they are all over 1 acre. They'll all need to have 50-foot front yard setbacks, 15-foot side yard setbacks, and 50-foot rear yard setbacks, which are required. This preliminary plat does adhere to that, and so I've listed those over here numerically if they're hard to read on the plat. I again talked about coming down Pleasant Hill Road. All these lots front Pleasant Hill. We had a fun little exercise where we found the pins, and then all these lots, you could trace them out here. We've got flag lots here for 3 and 4, but everything does touch Pleasant Hill Road. You've got a 100-foot here. You've got 50-foot. Just 75 foot, so break it down any way you want to break it down, but let's just say 35 and 35 will get us close enough. And then you've got another 110 foot here on lot 1. So we do have an issue with the driveways, as we don't have clear access. Mr. Lauderdale does state that Mr. Bridgeforth has applied for a driveway easement with the TVA, which is reasonable and customary within their easements, but their paperwork where Barry owns the property does not have any type of formal easement written into the paperwork for the TVA, and Mr. Lauderdale is working on providing that to staff. So pursuant to you all reviewing this plat, the Board of Aldermen again will be asked to render a decision. In turn, this preliminary plat approval authorizes the city engineer to approve civil plans for any road or utility infrastructure. Their engineering is currently working on running a sewer down through Pleasant Hill. That's a future project. And then the gas and water are on the western side, so anything brought across the road would be up to the property owner. But an application after that for final plat will still need to be submitted, will be reviewed again and submitted to the Board of Aldermen, and then upon final approval, plat recordation is a requisite for any building permits to be issued. So brought you to this. Again, I gave you these recommended motions or conditions here. I did want to, number 5, we struck it out. We did speak about this. It will be up to the property owners to seek a variance, but we wanted to make sure that we have an actual written release from the utility companies whose easement will be impacted by this plat, and those copies are submitted. We felt like that was something that we would rather have on the front end, and we can work on the variance with the future property owners. Mr. Lauderdale does have a plan on combining the driveways, which will keep that from being 4 driveways back to back going down Pleasant Hill. He is here, and he did state that they were going to run the driveway in approximately 50 to 100 feet and then branch off of that. But again, number 5, we're waiting on the written release from the TVA, and that needs to be handed in before we submit final plat. And that completes my presentation for this.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? If not, I see Mr. Lauderdale. Do you wish to represent the application?
Joe Lauderdale, 231 West Center Street in Hernando. I think this is the first time I've been here with the new monitors up here, so I like that. Yeah, we asked for preliminary approval on 4 lots. This property is wooded, hilly piece of property. It only has 4 building sites on it, so that's kind of why it's only 4 lots on almost 20 acres. We have applied to TVA for the easement that we need from them. Their document is just an easement. It's not a right-of-way deed, and it doesn't say anything in there about not having driveways on their property, on their easement. Mr. Bridgeforth owns the land, but they just have an easement. And they have an application form which I've sent in to them for permission to have driveways within their easement, and we will have that as stipulated there in the items on the recommended motion. I think we've looked at it and decided that we can have 1 driveway, and that driveway would then, as you turn in off Pleasant Hill Road, branch off into the other 4 driveways. So we don't think that'll be a problem. I think that's about all I had. I don't have anything to add to what's been recommended. So.
Will the, on number 5, that was stricken, at the end of it, it says all lots shall be paved, the driveways on all lots shall be paved in their entirety. If you join those driveways together, will they still all need to be paved, or does that remain in there?
Well, on number 5, I just,
on
we
the
asked
final plat submitted, add a plat note that driveways on all lots shall be paved in their entirety, and the new number 5 does not mention any paving. I just was curious, will that need to be paved, or will it be gravel?
Okay, we just asked that part be waived, that the driveways have to be paved. So I'm not saying that they won't be. I'm just saying, asking that is not would not be a stipulation for the subdivision.
In the new number 5.
But they could be paved. I mean.
Right, but it's not required in the new number 5.
That's right.
Correct. Thank you.
Any other questions? No further questions, then thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'll just open it up to the commissioners for any discussion or motions on this, please.
I make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat, and recommend to the Board of Aldermen, subject to the following, 6 conditions with the updated, 5 version, which does not contain all lots may be paved in their entirety.
Okay, we have the motion by Ms. Remack to approve the preliminary plat subject to the staff conditions, including the new revision on number 5. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Singer. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Its motion carries and it is approved. Thank you. All right. Moving on number 3 is an application for a preliminary plat for the Villages of South Branch Phase 3 submitted by William Kissel, W.H. Porter Consultants, PLLC, on behalf of the property owners, Michael Terhune, South Branch Development, LLC. The request is to create 53 residential lots and 4 common open spaces totaling 8.41 plus or minus acres. The subject property is zoned R3 Planned Residential District and is located on the east end of Sipsey Way, west of Davidson Road and north of Bram Drive.
Planning Commissioners, this is a request to consider the preliminary plat for Phase 3 of the Villages of South Branch subdivision. I think last month you did consider the plat for Phase 2, the preliminary plat for Phase 2. All the areas shown here in green, the lots, these have been created already as Phase 1A. Phase 1B is in this area, Phase 1C is further down here. This was Phase 2, the preliminary plat you did recommend for approval. The Board of Aldermen approved that preliminary plat. So the request before you is to consider Phase 3, which will be in these general areas shown here in red. The lots proposed will consist of 28 village lots. Those will be the lots in this middle area. There will be 28 of them, minimum 6,250 square feet. And then you have 19 cottage lots. Those will be lots minimum 8,750 square feet in this area. And 6 Grand Manor lots to the north. Those will be lots that will be minimum 10,000 square feet. A roundabout was required in the project text that will be part of this particular Phase 3. With regard to amenities, you have an open space, a common open space at the center of these village lots. A gazebo was required to be constructed there. These village lots will be rear loaded through alleys. Those alleys were also required in the project text. This common open space in this area will have a dog park with a trail that will be provided to access it. With respect to, so the zoning elements of this plat were basically dictated by the project text and they are met. With respect to subdivision infrastructure such as utilities, those will be extended by the developer from Phase 1A that has been completed through Phase 2 into this Phase 3 area. Transportation will also include the extension of Sipsey Way, the construction of Sipsey Circle, and the extension or construction of other new street sections. All of these will come back before you at final plat for approval. So I did indicate amenities will include a dog park, a pedestrian trail from these village lots, and along this road to that dog park, and then you'll have a gazebo at the center of these village lots. This village lot is really like the heart of this subdivision. This entire development is geographically at the center. Staff recommends approval of this preliminary plat for Phase 3, subject to conditions 1 to 6. Condition number 2 being a requirement that the developers submit construction plans, just as you have for other subdivisions, that will be reviewed and approved by the city engineer. In addition to that is that the construction plan should include the trail and other applicable recreational measures that need to be provided for review by planning staff. Condition number 5, this is basically copied from, I think, what you had before in Phase 2 of this development, that with regard to the alleys, the construction schedule for the alleys. The pavement schedule for the alley behind village lots shall consist of 8-inch soil cement and 3-inch asphalt thick surface. That's basically the same that you have for public streets. It shall have a pavement width of at least 18 feet and it shall have 2 feet slope in only one direction. A U or V-shaped design is prohibited. This is to make sure that you don't have water flowing to the center of the alleys and then chopping it off or destroying it too soon. Amenities, namely a dog park, walking trails to the park, and a gazebo are required in this phase 3 as shown in the common open space and amenities plan of the project text. Those, as I did indicate, will need to be shown in the construction plan. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? If not, is there someone here that wishes to represent the application?
William Kissel with W.H. Porter, 6055 Primacy Parkway. I'm just saying the presentation went well, and I'm here for any questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? No questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. I'll just entertain any discussion or motions from the commissioners on this application.
I would like to make a motion that we approve this preliminary plat of the villages subject to the following 6 conditions.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the application subject to the staff conditions by Ms. Remack. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Stratton. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the motion carries and the application is approved. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, may I recommend that we take items number 4 and 5 together?
Together.
They're kind of
Okay. I'll read items number 4 and 5 and we'll take them together. Item number 4 is an application to vacate Lot 1, Phase 1 of Acre Plan Commercial Development Subdivision, Phase 1, submitted by Harvey Matheny, the Pickering firm, on behalf of the property owner, DHR Chicken, Mississippi, LLC. The request is to vacate this lot for the purpose of incorporating the land area into a first revision plat for Phase 2 of the same subdivision. The 1.91 acre subject property is on C4 Planned Commercial District and is located on the north side of James Herbert Drive between Bethlehem Drive and Craft Road North. Item number 5 is an application for the first revision of Acre Plan Commercial Development Subdivision Phase 2, submitted by Harvey Matheny, the Pickering firm, on behalf of the property owner, DHR Chicken, Mississippi, LLC. The request is to re-subdivide Lot 1, Phase 1, and Lot 3 in Phase 2 into 3 lots of 3.02 plus or minus acres total area. The subject property is on C4 Planned Commercial District and is located on the northeast corner of Bethlehem and James Herbert Drive. We'll now have the staff presentation.
Yes, so regarding the first item, which deals with the vacating Lot 1 of Phase 1 of the Acre Commercial Subdivision. This is the Acre Commercial Subdivision Phase 1. You have Lot 1 and Lot 2. Lot 2 is under construction for La Quinta Hotel. The lots shown here in green, those are the lots in Phase 2. So the application before you concerns both Phase 1 and Phase 2. This being Lot 3 in Phase 2, Lot 4, and Lot 5. The first item has to do with vacating this Lot 1, or basically abandoning Lot 1. The subdivision regulations stipulate that once subdivision has been created, the lots have been sold, for an applicant or for a lot to be vacated, it has to be requested by that particular property owner. Title has to be provided that they actually own that particular lot. And in your packet, you have the request from the property owner. You have also supporting document provided by the owner of King's Court, who owns Lot 2, that is not opposed in any way to the vacation of this particular lot. The reason for that, why they want to vacate this lot, is the developer or the property owner, who has also acquired lot 3, intends to incorporate the area of lot 1 phase 1, combine it with the area of lot 3 phase 2 to create 3 separate lots. So currently you have 2 lots. You have phase 1 lot 1, phase 1 lot 1, and you have phase 2 lot 3. The applicant wants to basically remove this lot line that separates phase 1 lot 1 and then subdivide all of those into 3 separate lots. And the register of the county clerk's office require that to be able to do that, you have to abandon one of the lots. That is just the reason you're having this abandoned. So your next item then deals with replatting those the lot area that is abandoned and lot 3 to create this lot 6, lot 7, and lot 8. From a zoning perspective, they all meet the project text requirement for acre commercial subdivision. I think Slim Chicken is considering using lot 7, for their restaurant, and they have actually acquired this property. One thing that is worth pointing out is in the preliminary plat and the current recorded final plats, this easement, which is supposed to serve as a kind of, to some extent, is like a frontage road running parallel to Goodman Road, was 40 feet wide. The applicant is requesting to reduce that. It will still be 40 feet, kind of reduces from 40 feet right up to 25 feet across lot 7 onto lot 8. So there will still be an easement along the frontage of this property that will provide access to lot 8, lot 7 will be used by lot 7 and lot 6. There will not be any direct driveways onto Goodman Road as was restricted in the project text. Staff recommends approval with 2 motions. I wish to recommend that the board votes on this, that the Planning Commission should vote on this separately since you have 2 different items on the agenda. The first dealing with the vacation of phase 1 lot 1. Staff's recommendation is that it be so vacated, subject to this one condition, that the order of the mayor and board of aldermen approving the vacation of lot 1 of the acre plan commercial development phase 1 shall be recorded concurrently with a plat for the first division of acre plan commercial subdivision phase 2. The reason we're wanting that to be recorded together is we don't want to take a currently platted lot and then unplat it, so to speak. So we want both the order vacating that lot and the order incorporating or platting it to all be recorded at once, so that we don't create unplatted properties in the city. So that is the first recommendation, Mr. Chairman. Yes, no, please.
So we're taking up the item number 1 to vacate lot 1 of the acre plan commercial development. Do we have any discussion or motions from the commissioners?
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Stratton to approve the request to vacate lot 1 of the acre plan commercial subdivision phase 1. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second by Ms. Lewis. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So it's unanimously carried. Item 1, motion 1 is approved.
The second motion addresses the replat of those 2 lots to create the 3 lots. So that's the second motion. Staff recommend approval subject to these standard conditions 1 to 6. Condition number 4, just basically reiterating that the board order creating this replat should be recorded together with the order vacating lot 1 phase 1.
Okay, so we have the second motion is to approve the final plat for the first revision of acre plan commercial subdivision phase 2. Any discussion or motions from the commissioners on that one?
I make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Singer to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Remack. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion carries unanimously. Okay, thank you. Now for item number 6, we have an application for a final plat for Oak Ridge Commons Plan Development submitted by David Bray, the Bray firm, on behalf of property owner Singh Development. The request is to create a 2-lot subdivision totaling 4.10 plus or minus acres. The subject property is zoned PUD, Plan Unit Development, and is a triangular tract bounded by Highway 178, Magnolia Drive, and East Sandage Road. And Mr. Singh has recused himself.
All right, thank you. Here's an aerial view of the property with a sketch of what the lots would look like. This is Lot 1, which is 1.37 acres, and Lot 2, which is 2.73 acres, give or take. Here's the plat that has been provided. In a critique of the plat, we first will look at the zoning and lots. The proposed Lot 1 and 2 are located within the Oak Ridge Commons PUD, which specifies the minimum lot requirements. This includes a 75-foot front yard setback along Highway 178 here, a 30-foot front yard setback along Magnolia Drive, and a 20-foot front yard setback along East Sandage Road, and the plat meets the minimum lot requirements. Transportation to the site will occur off of East Sandage Road, Magnolia Drive, and Highway 178. There is a pedestrian bridge that is to be constructed over the natural drainage basin that you see here. This is the basin here that's depicted on the plat. And so, thus, a cross-access easement of a width determined by staff administratively would be added to the plat to ensure that there is accessibility between the two lots via that bridge. In terms of utilities, there are public utilities readily available to the lots. The city engineer requests that the sewer easement label on the plat include the width of said easement. And for the, there is also a natural drainage way easement on the plat, and the city engineer requests that the note on the plat be updated to include the language non-disturbed and to show the width of the easement from the center line of the creek to the center line of the easement along the property line. The city engineer also states that that detention will be required even with the basin, the natural drainage basin that you see here. And so a note about that detention with language provided by the city engineer in their memo, which is attached to your staff report, that language be added to the plat as well. In terms of a bond or a letter of credit, there's no dedication of any public dedicated streets or utilities that are required for the subdivision. However, the city engineer requests a letter of credit for the 5-foot wide perimeter sidewalks that are required for the subdivision. Excuse me. In terms of variances, deviations, or waivers, staff or the applicant don't see that any are, or staff does not see that any are required for this application, and the applicant does not request any as well. Next steps would be upon approval of the recommending approval by the Planning Commission, it would be forwarded to the Board of Aldermen for their decision. And based on the criteria, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the final plat for lots 1 and 2 of the Oak Ridge Commons Plan Development with the following conditions. The first 5 I just wanted to highlight being that cross-access easement would be established on the plat, to update the sewer note on the plat, and as well as the natural drainage way easement, and to add a note regarding detention as the language is found in the city engineer's memo, and to submit a letter of credit for the sidewalks. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of staff? No questions, then I will entertain any discussion or motions from the commissioners.
Do we have an applicant to come before us at all? It's Donnie.
It's Donnie. He recused
I know he's the
himself.
property owner. I would like to make a motion that we approve this application, subject to the following 10 conditions.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Remack to approve the final plat for lots 1 and 2 of Oak Ridge Common Plan Development, subject to the staff conditions. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Stratton. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion carries unanimously and application is approved. We're calling you back.
Motion
for
to
discussion
adjourn.
on this. I know other business. Do we have any other business? to discuss?
I did have one announcement. I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but Brad Thomas, he's been with us for about 3 years, and so tonight was his last meeting. He got a new job in Charleston, South Carolina, in historic preservation, so I just thought you all might be interested in that. That's why we put this item last on the agenda, by the way, so we made sure he had to stay through the whole meeting.
Congratulations,
Well,
Brad.
Brad,
We will miss you.
congratulations, and we
Thank you.
appreciate all the work. I did ask Brad before he said he was going to Charleston. I said Charleston, Mississippi. He said he didn't know where Charleston, Mississippi was. So anyway, well, anyway, Brad, we just thank you so much for all your reporting and everything you've done for us.
I didn't see that last staff presentation, but thank you for that.
That's right. You got your last staff presentation approved, so that worked out well. Any other business to be brought before us?
Yes, sir. I think this month, following the calendar that we had set up for the zoning code updates that you had worked on last year, you were really supposed to be considering that at this meeting for a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen, if my memory is accurate. But we've had a bit of a delay. We did put out the text on the city's website for any public comments. I think the last day was June 8. We didn't receive any comments. But the next thing that we'll be working on will be to set up a kind of a focus group and have some citizens, members of the Planning Commission, maybe have some input on the text before, precisely because we didn't get any feedback from anybody in the public. We want to make sure that at least 1 or 2 persons out there have their eyes on it before we then bring the text to you for consideration. So hopefully sometime in the course of this month, early next month, we should get those focus group meetings done. And then we'll bring the text before you. Just wanted to give you an update on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions of some? Okay, I guess that pretty well covers it. We have a motion to adjourn?
I made one about 20 minutes ago.
All right, Ms. Remack made the motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Singer second, and all those in favor say aye. And we are adjourned. I was